In this video, we're going to talk about driving in Portugal, and more specifically driving in the Algarve region of Portugal, which is the south part of Portugal, right by the coastline. This is the most touristic place, I would say, in Portugal so far, and driving or renting a car is probably the best way to see the entire region. There are basically two main options. First one is to rent from a local company, but some are really nice and do not charge for deposit, but others, most of them that you're going to find online, are going to charge like a ridiculous deposit, like 2,000 euros. Nobody has that. And stay away from those. And the second option is to use a well-known international company, but those are only available in bigger cities or at the airport, and we're gonna do that later. For right now, we rented a car from a local company, like a really small car. This is the things the cars are, the way the cars are right here. And we're gonna just drive around and explore the smaller cities and villages in Algarve. So this should do. Let's go.
Why should you consider renting a car in Algarve if you're in Portugal? Well, because getting around Algarve is a bit complicated. Algarve is not a huge place, but the public transport is not the best. I mean, you could visit Algarve using only public transport, but honestly, I had a hard time figuring out what bus to take from one bus station, and I was also located in a very small town. Note that I visited Algarve in February, so basically I started exploring Algarve in winter, and getting around was one of the main challenges, but luckily I solved it easily. I ended up taking a Bolt from Albufeira, where the international bus dropped me, all the way to Armação de Pera, where my Airbnb apartment was. Once I get to my small town, I realized that it's actually really small, and I was really happy that I didn't book an apartment in an even smaller place. And then I quickly realized that most tourists that spend time in the Algarve rent a car because it's simply easier that way. It's easier to get around, to go to the supermarket, to visit places, to go to other towns and cities, to go to the shopping mall. Basically, you need a car. Luckily, there are plenty of options for car rental in the Algarve with many local and international companies. If you're planning to only drive in the Algarve region, then renting from a reputable local agency with good reviews is the best way to go. I recommend choosing a company that does not require a deposit and one that offers some good weekly rates. When I was there, I rented from a rental company called Autorocha for about 170 euros per week. It was a Fiat Panda, as you already saw it, and it was quite popular in that area. This company had offices in Armação de Pera and also in Faro. I was pleasantly surprised with the entire experience, and for an extra fee of only 15 euros, I dropped the car off at the airport in Faro, from where I rented my second car from an international company. Driving in Portugal is mostly safe. However, you need to be aware of the local style of driving. Locals tend to use signaling less than what you're used to, especially in the Algarve region, but you'll quickly get used to it. For instance, Algarve has a lot of roundabouts, and probably drivers are tired of signaling every time they enter and they get out of the roundabout, so basically they never signal when they go around roundabouts. But there are plenty of speed traps and cameras in the Algarve, so make sure you don't speed, especially when driving in village. You don't want to end up with a fine. Parking is mostly free, but note that some of the cool spots in Algarve that everybody wants to visit has some limited parking spots, so you'll need to get there early. So generally speaking, parking was also very safe. I never felt unsafe when parking in the Algarve. However, there are many hills and the terrain gets rough at times, so it might be hard to find a parking spot, especially during high season. So that's something to keep in mind. However, during winter, finding a parking spot was never an issue for me. Also, I am from the European Union, so I only needed my driver's license from back home to rent a car here, but you should check online to see if you need an international driver's license, especially if you're from the outside of the European Union. Let's talk about the highway tolls in Algarve, because this is something you need to be aware of. The highways will charge you for the distance you cover. So here are some costs that you need to keep in mind. So if you are, for instance, driving for the entire Algarve highway from the east, the Spanish border, all the way to the west, along the Algarve coastline, the highway tolls will add up to about 7 euros. Maybe now it's a bit more. I did this some years ago. And then, for instance, if you want to drive back, it will charge you again. So each time you pass by the cameras, you will get charged. You do not need to stop to pay. However, when you rent a car in the Algarve, the car comes with a special device that beeps whenever you pass by these points. The car rental company will provide the device on the car and it will activate it for you. Note that different companies will charge different prices for this device. When I was there, the local company charged me 5 euros for renting the device on the car, and then it needed my credit card information to charge the taxes at the end of my rental. So it's up to you where you drive, but then it sums up all the small fees and it will charge you at the end of your rental. So do not be surprised by that. Different companies have different rules. In this case, if you're only in the Algarve region, I strongly recommend rent from a local company because most of these do not charge a deposit, offer smaller cars that might be more suitable for driving in the Algarve, and overall are cheaper.
Back to our car driving experience in Algarve. I figured that after renting the local car from the local agency from our tiny village, I would drop it off at the airport in Faro, where we are right now, at the airport, so that I can rent a car from the airport from a big international company, which I did. So basically, instead of paying on a taxi like 30 euros to take us here, or a bus or whatever, make it very complicated, I said that we're gonna drop the car here at the airport for an extra 15 euros fee, but still less than whatever the bus or whatever the taxi would have cost us. And now we are going to get the rental car from the big international company. Why do we switch companies? Because local companies only have like coverage and are able to step in, intervene, help you if something happens within this region, the south part of Portugal. But like if you rent for a bigger company, then it would be better if you want to drive all over Portugal, which we're gonna do. Also, we want to drive to Spain. So yeah, that's the main reason. So we are in car park number 4 at the airport, and there's a big desk where it says meeting point, car rental, shuttles, whatever. So it's a big office for rental companies, for local rental car companies that get you from there and take you to where they actually keep the cars, because it's not at the airport, because it's very expensive to park here at the airport. And because as I said, I rented from an international company, they don't have offices there, the international companies, so we have to go on the other side of the airport where all the international car rental companies are. This was in car number 4 for local. Very complicated Portugal. Why are you so complicated? So this is where the international companies are. They each have their own office, which is very interesting. I have to mention, if I haven't already, that this airport, the Faro airport, has about 3 flights per day incoming. Probably the same. Hi there. Probably the same ones departing. But they have a bunch of taxis, about 100, waiting for whoever is willing to pay for an overpriced ride. Also, they have massive car parks for rental, and I say massive because this place, I mean, it's big, but it's not that big. It's basically a huge theme park for tourists. Yeah, let's find our company. Still walking through the airport parking lot. So funny story, I wanted to rent from Sixt because I rented from them before, but when I hit refresh on the rental page online, the company was not available for me.
However, the big international rental company charged me 1.10 euros per day for the same device, which for my rental time added up to 18 euros in total, plus the cost of a full tank. If you're driving from Algarve to Lisbon, for instance, there is another system for the highway. There are booths at the beginning and at the exits on the highway, and you will get a ticket when entering the highway, and then when you exit, you'll need to present that ticket and pay the corresponding amount.
This is the Portuguese highway, which wants to make sure that you're going to pay a lot of money to drive here. So basically, wait, you stop at this toll office, whatever, where you get a ticket, where you enter this part of the highway, and later on, confused, you shall give this ticket, and they will calculate the distance that you drove on the highway and pay probably like 20 euros or whatever. It's the most expensive highway in Europe? Probably. Let's see. Was friends just stopping? Online. Okay. So it's time to find out how expensive was this highway. First, to get out my card, just to be sure, and to get the ticket. Yes, so the first thing we need to do is to get a ticket. We got like 200 kilometers back, and put it here. €22.65. This was one expensive trip. It's definitely a ride. They say thank you for choosing Portugal to spend your money.
So if you add up the costs and you plan on doing multiple road trips on these highways, you will spend quite a lot of money. Also, you have to add up to these costs the cost of renting the car and the cost for petrol. Of course, there are alternative roads to the highways, but these will take twice as much time because the roads are narrow and most often very busy because a lot of locals do not want to pay the tolls on the highway.
After you get off the highway coming from the south of the country, if you want to go to Lisbon, well, depending on where you want to go, you might have to cross this huge bridge, which is called Ponte de Gama, Vasco da Gama, I think bridge is called. But there is a catch. You have to pay for crossing the bridge, and you pay at the beginning. And it's for a small normal car, it's €3.05. You can pay by card. And if you want to go like multiple times, they have the special offer. Like you can pay for 12 euros per month, but the catch is that you need to get a special card for it and then top it up with the money, and I don't know, it's very complicated. The lady did not seem to speak English or want to, but basically you have to pay. every time you cross this bridge and you want to go to Lisbon, coming from the south. So yeah, all the roads here are quite expensive. But to be honest, look at this bridge. And please film the bridge. The bridge is enormous, gigantic, and you can, from this point, you cannot see the end of it. You can see how huge it is, but you cannot see the end of it. And on the other side is basically Lisbon. Look at it. And over there it turns to the left and it goes into the city. So it's super huge. It takes like 10 minutes to cross it, and it's impressive. It's an impressive structure, mega structure. And on the other side over there, you cannot see it on camera, but there's another huge bridge that kind of looks like those American bridges, which is interesting. But the GPS said that it would have been a lot more complicated to go that way. It would have been like 30 minutes extra delay. So that's why we took this bridge.
After renting cars for 2 different companies in the Algarve, I felt like the local company offered a very good service and everything was covered without having to pay for anything extra. The only extra fee was the highway tolls, which is completely up to you. I mean, if you could even avoid the highway totally and then pay nothing for the tolls. I felt like the big company tried to force me to buy all their extra insurance and their other services. As I approached the office at the Faro airport, the first thing they did was try to upsell me. So they offered a BMW for only 25 euros extra per day, and you can imagine that that amount can add up quickly when renting a car for almost 3 weeks, because my second rental was for 18 days. The lady at the office was pretty vehement when that I needed the extra damage, extra insurance if I plan to drive in Lisbon, because the city of Lisbon is said crowded and the drivers there are chaotic. I have to admit that it scared me a bit. Luckily for me, I wasn't keen on driving in Lisbon or stopping in the city with this rental car, because I had already planned to spend an extra 3 days in Lisbon after the drop-off of the rental car. However, after driving to Lisbon, I realized that the driving there isn't that bad, but I do have to warn you that it comes down to your experience as a driver. I've been driving for more than a decade in Bucharest, the capital of Romania, which is probably one of the worst places to drive in Europe. So I'm not really scared by crazy traffic. However, a lot of people come from cities and countries that respect traffic rules like the laws of the Bible, and probably they will be a bit more scared. However, with the international company, I also had to pay upfront for the fuel surcharge, which was 88 euros, which was way over the local price of gas at that time. However, they did return that amount when I returned the car with a full tank. However, renting with a big international company does have its benefits. For instance, I was able to drive to Spain with the rental car. I did 2 road trips to the south of Spain, also made it up to Gibraltar. I didn't drive in Gibraltar, I just parked at the border, but you should check that video out and see what happened there. And also I was able to drop off the car in a different location. So I dropped off the car in Lisbon at the airport and continued my adventures in Lisbon that way. I was also able to ask for an invoice after I returned the car. Is it worth it to rent a car in Algarve if you're traveling in Portugal? I would say yes. A definitive yes. Driving around Algarve is a dream, and there is no way to access some of the tiny rocky beaches without a car in Algarve. Even if you're going as a digital nomad in Portugal, let's say the main digital nomad community is in Lagos, which is a bit far away from the beach and also from the airport, which is in Faro. However, if you want to spend your time in one place like Faro or Lagos, then renting a car may be a weekend activity to enable you to drive around and discover more. So you wouldn't need to rent a car for your entire stay. You can simply rent a car for a few days. During the week, it might be an issue if you have a car, if you're staying in the center of the city, because parking in the center, even in the small cities, is an issue even in winter. So I cannot imagine parking there during summer when it's the high season. However, I definitely love the freedom that comes with renting a car whenever I'm traveling. If it's a bigger area that has multiple attractions, then renting a car and going on road trips is the best way to discover the location and the destination. And I would definitely recommend to rent a car in Algarve if you're more into a chill vibe where you book an apartment further away from all the fuss and all the agitation, and then you only occasionally visit the bigger towns and cities while spending the majority of your time working in the mornings, for instance, and exploring Algarve in the afternoon. Maybe that's not an activity for everybody. That's what I did. But if you're planning on exploring more, let's say spend 1 week or more in the Algarve, definitely consider renting a car. It will make your entire stay so much more pleasant. Enjoy Algarve, and I really hope this video helped you.